So last night I saw the movie Babylon by Damien Chazelle, and this movie is wild, to say the least. And although this movie is so chaotic in its style, I feel like it has a lot to say symbolically, thematically, and socially, and I want to break it all down. Like Nellie Leroy's career and addiction, the symbolism of her death as she dances into the darkness, Jack Conrad shooting himself in the head, Jack and Eleanor's discussion around the cockroaches, Sidney Palmer's black makeup scene, and the ending with Manny in the theater with the families in that massive montage. I found it most fascinating how Babylon ties the nature of the Roaring Twenties with the lives of our main characters, and I can't wait to discuss. So I hope you enjoy this analysis. So to break this movie down, we're going to use 3 themes. 1, Price of Humanity, where we'll discuss the main message of the movie, Nellie Leroy's addiction, Nellie's sense of validation, Nellie's father and the rattlesnake, the symbolism of Nellie's death, and Manny's compassion. 2, Cycle of Culture, where we'll discuss the meaning of the title of the film, Jack Conrad's career, Jack and Eleanor's cockroach conversation, and Jack's suicide. 3, Freedom of Obscurity, where we'll discuss Sidney Palmer's black makeup scene, Manny's retirement, Manny's final visit to the theater, and the ending with the massive montage and the families in the theater, and much more. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and a comment. It helps so much. And if you want to see more of these, please make sure to subscribe as well. Let's get started. Theme number 1, Price of Humanity. After watching this movie, you can clearly tell that there's a lot being said thematically. But if I were to boil this movie down to one thematic statement, I would say this movie is about this: how the industry of show business rewards us as we let it consume our humanity. It's about giving up our every last piece of our truest self in exchange for fame and recognition. Nellie Leroy is a prime example of this, as she indulges in the excesses that come with fame, recognition, and praise. She feels like Hollywood's stardom will give her value as a human being, because she never felt valued all her life. We hear her say to Manny that in her earlier life, before Los Angeles, she was criticized, outcasted, and bullied by her community. And she has a terribly ill mother who's currently living in a psychiatric hospital. Of course, this type of trauma and exclusion can send someone into a lifestyle as wild and untamed as Nellie's, with endless drugs, gambling, and sleepless nights. So Nellie's entire sense of happiness and fulfillment depends on her success. She uses the reactions from the public to define her worth. It's her only source of validation, which is of course very dangerous, because when her takes on set become less sharp, and the critics aren't as generous, and the audience isn't as warm, Nellie loses all control, resorting back to the mindless escape of drugs, drinking, and gambling. Although we don't get major details about Nellie's past, we can tell there's a part of her past that she does cherish, as she lovingly hires her father as her manager. And when she's asked about how she so easily cries on command, she says, "I just think of home." And also, challenging her father to wrestle a rattlesnake to hopefully kill him would completely cut off that sense of home she feels like may be hindering her career. That scene really shows that she's past the point of no return. And in the final third of the film, when she completely accepts that her career has fallen apart, she loses her entire sense of self-worth through addiction, a dark escape from reality that Nellie wishes could go on forever. And poetically, at the end of the film, she literally escapes into this darkness, smiling and dancing, soon to meet her inevitable early death. Manny Torres is another example of having one's humanity slowly consumed by the industry. What defines Manny as a great person is his sense of compassion. He always seems to care so deeply about how every friend of his is feeling. However, as he rises in the ranks as a producer, we see his compassion slowly fade away. He tells Sidney he has to darken his skin to match the skin tone of his bandmates under different lighting. He also fires Lady Feizu because of the headlines she creates when spending relatively innocent time with Nellie, her sexuality, of course, being a major factor. And Manny's last remaining sense of compassion lies with Nellie, and she is who indirectly saves him from being entirely consumed by power in Hollywood, which I'll return to later in this video. Also, like Nellie, Manny separated himself socially from his parents, who actually lived close by. Detaching himself from his family just made it easier to focus on his dreams and goals. Theme number 2, cycle of culture. This film, of course, takes place during the United States' Roaring Twenties. It was a decade of economic prosperity. There were many major developments and changes in art and technology. This is also why the film is titled Babylon, LA being a reflection of Babylon, the capital city of the rapidly progressive Babylonian Empire. In film, specifically, major studios were shifting into 90-minute feature-length films that were audio inclusive and more artistic than realistic. And socially, culturally, and politically, the Roaring Twenties were the beginning of a new era, escaping many of the traditions that came before it. And this theme of cycling in with the new and out with the old is strongly present throughout this entire movie, especially for Jack Conrad's character. Jack Conrad is a victim of this cultural cycle. Jack appears to have the perfect life. He's an A-list celebrity with the highest actor salary at a studio. When he appears at parties, everyone wants to speak to him, touch him, and flirt with him. And he always has a beautiful girlfriend, wife, or fiancé. And he has a true passion for the art form. Many of his monologues in this film are about being on the cutting edge of filmmaking, appealing to the everyday person, and capturing the natural, true chaos of humanity. But on the other hand, Jack cycles through marriage after marriage. His love never seems like true love. His wives seem to be more of an accessory to his lifestyle, which is why they don't last him very long. His life actually seems very lonely. Many of the scenes in his home involve him and one or two other characters in this enormous mansion. There's no sense of family, privacy, or loving community with him. All he has is his career, his salary, his image, and his conventionally attractive partner. Nothing more. And Jack realizes this during his hard conversation with Eleanor, the journalist. Eleanor very accurately explains that his life is only a moment in the spotlight. Then someone else will take the mantle. Then someone else. Eleanor humbly compares herself to a cockroach, mentioning there are many other people in the world like her, who have an easier time surviving because they never had the spotlight to lose in the first place. They've understood how to embrace and value life's most wholesome gifts, the ones Jack never discovered. And there's a scene on set where Jack looks around at the crew of people who were never in the spotlight, and he recognizes their beauty. He recognizes what he's missing. And when this spotlight burns out for him, when his movies are laughed at, when he's cast in lower tier films, and when his price goes down, he realizes he has nothing. He never had what those crew members have, especially after his only close friend in the industry, George Munn, passes away. And of course, in his final scene, we witness how he decides to deal with it. When he speaks to Lady Faye, he mentions how his life is just a part of a repeating cycle, and says how his newest girlfriend, Rebecca, can be saved from this. Jack eventually ends his own life, no longer at the mercy of the industry. Theme number 3, freedom of obscurity. Sidney Palmer is the one character who has a taste of Hollywood stardom, but leaves as soon as he notices himself sacrificing his personal dignity and integrity. He is pushed to use the dark makeup once for a performance and promises never to return to the studio lot. At the end of the film, he has scaled down his career freely and happily, completely separated from the degrading demands of the major studios. And Manny does a very similar thing. After doing everything he can to save Nellie and still losing her, Manny escapes from LA, detaching himself from film production for the next 20 years. And every main character in this film eventually has the urge to escape, to be liberated by fading into obscurity, whether it's through suicide, addiction, scaling down, or retiring entirely. And we've seen all of these situations occur with famous celebrities countless times. Art and culture is a cycle. And this film, in classic Damien Chazelle fashion, is not only a criticism of the cycle, it's also a celebration of the cycle. When Manny visits the studio 20 years later, he is reminded and mesmerized by the beauty of the art form he fell in love with. We eventually see this chaotic montage of the countless films throughout history that have impacted and revolutionized the film industry forever. The sequence highlights how all of these films and scenes and clips and shots and reels and frames and colors are a blurry memory all blended together to become what art is today. And as Manuel is speechless and enamored, we see the community of tomorrow enjoying the show below the balcony. So even though the actors, producers, and filmmakers of the past lose relevance, lose interest, lose the spotlight, or even lose their lives, they live on in what we see today. Alright, that's my analysis. Subscribe for weekly videos and please send me recommendations. And please let me know your thoughts and ideas around Babylon. I would love to discuss. I hope to see you again and thank you so much for watching. See you later.